Are you able to hear me, participants? Can somebody confirm? Are you able to hear me? Okay, okay,
Yes, sir,
thank
yes.
you. I
Yes,
think
sir.
you are muted by our administrator, but I am getting the message that you are able to hear me. So I formally once again welcome all of you. My name is Pankaj Gupta. I am Deputy Chief with Building Materials and Technology Promotion Council, and BMTPC is an autonomous organization under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. And BMTPC is basically mandated to create enabling ecosystem for mainstreaming innovative, cost-effective, environment-friendly, and energy-efficient alternate building materials and technologies in the construction industry. In its technology development, promotion, and dissemination efforts, Council has promoted various technologies through performance appraisal certification scheme, which is run by the Council. And basically, we are serving to the housing sector of the country. And BMTPC embarks upon multifaceted activities through networking with various academic and research institutions, public and private sector organizations, NGOs, foreign institutions for successful transfer of technologies, building materials, and new technologies. BMTPC is basically under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, as I told you, and we are involved with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, which is being operationalized by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and we are knowledge and technical partner of the ministry in various activities related to PMAY Urban, including appraisals, monitoring, and conducting various technical sessions and seminars, handholding of the state governments with regard to use of innovative technologies in their PMAY projects, and otherwise also if some states want to use this technology in their projects. And just to tell you that there is a technology submission under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, which is in its second phase 2.0 for the last 1 year in September 2024. The scheme was launched by Honorable Prime Minister as PMAY Urban 2.0, and there is a technology submission under the scheme under which all these innovative technologies being promoted by BMTPC and also certified by BMTPC under performance appraisal certification scheme. We are promoting these technologies in PMAY projects also. Now, this present theme, BMTPC has just started this webinar series. As all of you know now, the built environment, there is critical role in climate action, and energy efficiency has become a very important and crucial aspect in building construction now. So considering this aspect, we have started a new webinar series, and we are conducting a webinar every month on a very selective topic with a broad theme of, as I told you, broad theme is innovative building materials and technologies for thermally comfortable green buildings. And today is our sixth webinar in this series, and the topic today is advancing climate and energy solutions in the built environment. And I am happy to inform you that we have two eminent speakers with us who will be talking on this subject today. And before starting the session, I would like to introduce our speakers, Dr. Priyanka Kochhar and Dr. Gaurav Bhatiani. To start with, Dr. Priyanka Kochhar is a sustainability leader in India's built environment sector, bringing over 21 years of diverse professional experience across practice, policy, academia, and advisory role. Dr. Kochhar holds a PhD in architecture from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, a master's degree in environment conservation and with distinction from the University of Greenwich. She is currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Habitat Emprise, where she provides strategic leadership in advancing sustainable habitats and green building practices. Just to inform you, BMTPC has recently signed a MOU with the Emprise, the Habitat Emprise, to work on this advanced energy solutions. And Dr. Kochhar has also played a seminal role in the development and nationwide streaming of Griha, as all of you might be knowing, the Griha of uh, TERI, which is the India's national green building rating system, leading one, and has been instrumental in expanding the adoption of LEEDs and IFC's EDGE program, which maybe you are aware, across the multiple states and cities. Her career includes impactful roles with TERI, the Griha one, which is most important, and then UNIDO, GBCI, and advisory engagement with UN Habitat, IFC, and NIUA, National Institute of Urban Affairs, Government of India. I welcome Dr. Priyanka Kochhar, and I would like to simultaneously introduce Dr. Gaurav Bhatiani also, so that I can hand over the session to them. Dr. Bhatiani is a nationally and internationally respected authority in the field of energy, infrastructure, and environment. With over 3 decades of distinguished professional experience, Dr. Bhatiani holds a PhD in electricity economics and regulation from the University of Delhi, a gold medal winning master's degree in business economics, and a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from IIT Roorkee. He currently serves as a senior advisor to multiple clean energy companies and as a visiting professor at the Indian School of Business, where he teaches energy economics, policy, infrastructure regulations, and financing. Over his illustrious career, he has held many leadership roles in institutions like RTI International, IL&FS, StarCraft, USAID, India, PwC, and TERI, advising governments, regulators, multilateral agencies, and industry leaders. His expertise spans clean energy transition, power sector reform, climate finance, electric mobility, urban infrastructure, circular economy, and sustainable urbanization. We are honored to have these esteemed speakers for today's discussion. So I would hand over the session to both the esteemed speakers, and I would request the participants can either write their queries in the chat box, and or the interactive session can happen at the end of the presentation. That will be more helpful, or I think it will be easier to conduct that way. Thank you very much. And now I would request Dr. Priyanka Kochhar to take over. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Pankaj, for a very nice introduction. I am Priyanka Kochhar, and like Pankaj introduced, I work at the Habitat Emprise. It's a delight to connect with everybody today. I understand from the profiles I saw that a lot of us are engineers from multiple municipal corporations across the country, and also
hope you are audible to them, if you can confirm it from the participant.
Yes.
Because the screen is full now.
Yes, I just want to confirm you can all hear.
Yes, ma'am, you're very much clear. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And it was very helpful that you spoke, because I cannot see the chat window on my screen as of now. So we all know that building materials have a significant role as far as architecture, construction, and impact on the environment is concerned. So today, over the course of the next 90 minutes, we are going to talk about various strategies and the benefits of using environment-friendly building materials and construction technologies. To begin with, I wanted to understand why do materials matter? So to also understand, when we talk of environment-friendly materials or eco-friendly materials, what is it that comes to your mind? The reason I'm asking this is because the objective is to also keep this session interactive. So if you have questions, feel free to type them, and also please feel free to ask questions. So my question to you is, when we talk of environment-friendly materials, what is it that comes to your mind? If you can chat in the window. Chat. Okay. We think of the embodied emissions to be reduced, yes. But yes, that is the objective and that is eventually what is achieved. But can you tell me one material which is environment-friendly?
Wood.
Sorry? I think Dr. Shikha Verma said something.
Ma'am, wood, ma'am. Timber.
Yeah, it's the foremost thing to build the desired environment, like stone, wood, okay. Fly ash, yes. G. So absolutely fine. All these answers are absolutely correct. And in different categories, they are all environment friendly materials. So when we talk of, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, great. So when we talk of environment friendly materials, there are decisions that we can make as practitioners on deciding whether a building material is green or not. Plus, there are multiple certification systems and frameworks that are available that can be used for us to understand the impact of building materials on our health, on the cost of materials and overall economics of the building which is going to get constructed, and the social impact of the building in terms of employment it generates and so on. So these are the broad things that we take up. What eco-friendly materials are, what are the implementation strategies, and what are the multi-dimensional benefits, because I'm sure you come across these challenges in your daily work when deciding whether to go in for a technology that constructs the building very fast versus using a labor intensive strategy or an approach. There are very different pros and cons of both. While one will happen quickly, save time, money, and material, the other will actually generate a lot of employment by engaging with local skill, local craft, local people, and so on. And depending on where you are coming from, the decisions will be very different with very different objectives and impact on ground. So right now, what was good to see is that traditional building materials were taken up as green building materials. Like some of you mentioned wood, some of you mentioned stone. Nobody said that an AAC block could be green, even though it has use of fly ash. And fly ash comes with its own challenges. The curing time is very high. Sometimes the place from which fly ash is brought to the site is so far away that it negates the purpose of using an environment friendly material in the first place. So we are going to look at how to classify eco-friendly materials, and please keep sending me your questions if there are any during the So one is to look at where the material origins. For example, is it renewable? Is it natural? Is it waste of an industrial product? Or if it is synthetic? For example, polymer composites are not environment friendly, but if it is plastic reused as pavement, it will be considered environment friendly. So depending on whether we are using virgin resources and materials to procure that item versus reusing something, it will be classified as green or not green. The second is embodied carbon. Essentially, what is the total impact on emissions of procuring that material and bringing it to site? So many times, for example, bamboo in general is considered a green material. But if I have to carry it from Guwahati till Rajasthan, it doesn't make any sense because stone is more readily available in Rajasthan, and also a lot of energy will be wasted and spent in getting the product from one part of the country to the other. So embodied carbon also is linked to where the project is being executed. The third component which we can look at when talking about environment friendly material is recyclability and end of life. So for example, and I'm sure you are familiar with that, a lot of buildings also now promote reuse of demolition waste, construction waste, and so on. And even in the rating systems, the reuse of furniture, whether it is wooden furniture or even chairs or even computers for that matter, is promoted from an embodied energy, from an environmental perspective. So depending on whether a product can be reused or downcycled or whether it is going to landfill, these criteria help us decide whether and classify whether the material is friendly or not, environment friendly or not. And but very important is the impact on health. It could to do with low volatile organic compounds, and I'm sure you will also experience this when we use chemical heavy paints for buildings. Even sitting inside that building causes a headache. And as soon as we shift to water-based paints, we feel better in terms of um, the health, the activity levels, and so on. And even plasters can be classified as breathable and non-breathable. So depending on the impact each material on our has on our health, it can be classified as a green material or not. So usually when we have a particular product in hand, these are the 4 lenses that we should use. These are the 4 lenses that certification agency uses to classify the products as green or not green. Of course, how these products are tested for each parameter, that's a whole different set of decisions. Initially, a lot of our construction was using traditional building materials. Like you mentioned, there was wood in the cold parts of the country. There was stone in Rajasthan and other places and so on. But in between, and these materials, including lime, bamboo, or whatever was used through traditional wisdom, was environment friendly. And over the period of the building, either they would disintegrate into the environment or they would last for really long, like centuries together, like our forts and palaces are. And in between, there was a phase, which we are still in that phase, where a lot of industrial waste started getting integrated in the kind of buildings that we make. So for example, fly ash, AAC block, lime cement blends, and so on. And very recently, I was reading an example that in a university campus in Noida, people have actually used sugarcane waste to mix it with mud and straw and make bricks out of that, which is again, because it was a temporary structure, works very well. And only a ground plus 1 building was there. It was not something that was to go high rise. It works very well and is environmentally friendly. But now, given the type of buildings which are coming up, even geopolymer concrete or mycelium panels and aggregates that help sequester carbon are being developed. So there is a lot of technological research which is happening. And in some cases, while the embodied energy may be high, but looking at it from a lens of recyclability and so on, these are technological solutions which can also be considered as green and environment friendly. So in the work setting right now, one could be looking at traditional building materials, the current building materials that can be classified as transitional or technological solutions that I just mentioned. And of course, concrete forms a big component of what we use in our day-to-day lives. Given that a lot of housing is coming up even under PMAY, or in your own professional capacities, you may be approving or working on such projects, concrete is the general product that comes. And even in the schedules and specifications that are used, say by the CPWD or by the various PWDs, such specifications and composition is typically used. However, even in concrete, we can replace aggregates, use some natural aggregates, specifically in the non-structural components, see how AAC blocks can be used, lime pozzolana blends can be used so that the clinker use is reduced, say about 25 to 30%. Beyond this, the building structural safety will be impacted, but up to 25%, it is very easy to replace core cement and use biodegradable materials or even hempcrete and other things. So even concrete in its current day use can be transitioned into a green material. Now, I just wanted to check through a show of hands if we are familiar with the green building rating systems that exist in India. Familiar? Somebody has asked me if we can use rice husk in making building materials. So yes, it is used sometimes in rural settings and in buildings that are not higher or further high than ground floor only. So then they can be used. Very much familiar. Yes, Kamya. I wanted to ask you, okay, so this is about the green building rating systems. Are you also familiar with the product catalogs that they have? Yes. Yes, kind of. Okay. So each rating system, L&T, energy, hydrocarbon, onshore, green steel rebar. Yes. We are the manufacturer of green steel rebar. Okay. Good to know. So in these various rating systems, the same principles are applied like we just discussed in terms of the origin, the recyclability, and also the various aspects that we had discussed. Now, for example, in IGBC or in LEED or in GRIHA or even in CPWD, there are broad guidelines that are mentioned in terms of what makes a building green. And there is a product catalog, which also makes it very easy because products can register on the platform and straight away we can choose a product from there. So while there is a formal framework for us to choose our products from, the principles remain the same and we can use our materials depending on the site, depending on the purpose of the building and so on. So for example, the Confederation of Indian Industry has a framework called IGBC, which has over 2,000 products across paints, cement, insulation, and plumbing faucets and so on, which are identified as green. Unfortunately, a lot of certification of those materials happens outside India. There is only one lab in Ahmedabad which looks at the insulation properties and so on. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done in this sector. Again, I will go back to the basic principles and all of us in our respective professional capacities can make that decision. Even the GRIHA product catalog mentions all the flooring that can be used, the UPVC frameworks, window specifications, glass specifications. Of course, there will be differences from one side to the other, but it's a very useful database that can be used. EDGE is developed by IFC, by the World Bank, and it specifically pays a lot of emphasis on the embodied energy of every material. And EDGE also has a quantifiable app where, depending on what materials you can see the impact on the environment, both in terms of operational energy and embodied energy. So that is another useful tool which can be used. It's free of cost. It's downloadable just after simple registration. I'm also sure that you are quite familiar with the CPWD envelope. And in 2024, the guidelines were updated. And even the newer technologies, there is flexibility to purchase these materials as per market rates. We have to get 3 quotations, and based on those quotations, the product can be specified in the specific project. And all of these catalogs are available. So given that these rating systems are acknowledged and endorsed by the Government of India, I think even in our own individual capacities, we can use this to choose our products and so on. So right now, broadly, what we've seen is what are traditional products, what are products in transition, and what are the technological approaches to new products that are coming up as far as green building materials are concerned. What are the options available when using concrete in terms of reducing fresh material and reusing waste, industrial waste in reducing the embodied energy, and what the various data sets or frameworks or certifications that are available to make these decisions. Now going forward, we will look at what life cycle thinking is, what are the certification procedures again. So for example, we can look at materials. So when you are looking at materials and choosing materials, can you help me understand what are the barriers you face in terms of specifying what green building materials you are using? Anybody? Okay. I think the DY Patil University is also here. So any thoughts on what is a barrier in mainstreaming, say, education on green buildings in the curriculum? Is availability an issue? Is knowledge an issue? Durability? Okay. Anybody else? Awareness of the innovative materials? Okay. Anybody else?
Ma'am, it is in higher semesters.
I can't hear you. I can hear that you are speaking, but I cannot hear what you are saying.
Actually, these are some elective subjects like environmental architecture and urban.
Wait, let me sort out the volume. Yes, now please say.
Actually, in higher semesters, when people are more inclined towards their design and all, then these electives are there. So I think they should be introduced in the first semester itself when they enter the profession, first and second semester. So that will be more better, ma'am. These environmental friendly material as a core syllabus, as a part of the core syllabus, not just at the end, just to touch the things.
Yes,
So-
I completely agree with you, ma'am. Even when I teach at SPA or at IP University, USAP, everything to do with the environment is an elective in the third year for 12
Correct.
and hardly 1 hour is allocated, where the
Yes.
attendance is also very poor. So it's
Correct.
really difficult to reach the students and bring about that mindset change. And yes, we are still following the McKay books for building construction, but I think one of us has to take the lead in revising some of those texts so that even alternate material becomes a part of building construction right from third semester.
Correct, ma'am. I think we can go reverse, ma'am. First, we have to start with this. And because already when the higher semesters, the students are already aware that, okay, these are the traditional materials, they already see, matlab, so that way it can be, this is my suggestion. So it can go in the reverse order, ma'am.
क्योंकि जब ये सेंसिटिविटी नहीं होती है तो हम सेकेंड ईयर से ही ग्लास और स्टील से बनाना शुरू कर देते हैं.
Correct,
absolutely. Everybody wants to make a high-rise building, whether it is housing, it is a commercial building, doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because there is technology to provide services and everything. And unfortunately, the local materials get left behind.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Modification and design not possible in these innovative technologies. Okay. Education, there has always been a lag of newer technologies. Absolutely right. So I also get a sense that a lot of academicians are here. And it's a whole different conversation to look at how building materials can be integrated in the curriculum. There is actually a course on new technologies in 5th year. At least it is there as far as I'm concerned in SPA Delhi. But it is not linked to anything with embodied energy or operational energy or even maintenance of that material. And Palani, madam, I think, no, somebody has put a comment to say that it's not possible to be innovative in these technologies. I don't quite agree with you, ma'am. There is usually a restriction of height. So multi-story and say skyscrapers cannot be made with traditional materials. But I have also seen temples where they have completely removed the use of steel, even iron for that matter, where bamboo has been cast and used instead of iron in some of the Jain temples, and it has worked very well. There are long shikhars and so on, which is structurally stable and doing quite well. there is a lot of construction out of bamboo, which is happening in Bali. I don't know if you've seen some of those green schools that are promoted. So the shape of the roofs and just the environment which is created both inside and at a master planning level, it's quite unique and beautiful, structurally stable. A lot of these technologies are also used in Japan because it is in a seismic zone and a lot of concrete will increase the weight of those buildings. So I think these local, traditional and green building materials have been used quite innovatively across the world, including in India. And there is, of course, a huge potential to integrate that in the curriculum. I completely agree with that. And there are very less architectural schools that actually work on materials. Mostly, I think 80% of the focus is on design and followed by construction. So there's very little happening specifically on building materials. In terms of data, so like we looked at, can everybody see my screen? I cannot see.
Well, but if it would be good if you'll pay in a slide mode. It would be
Is this
clearly
okay now?
visible.
Now it is in a slide mode.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So thank you for that. Now, moving to the next step, once we've classified what environment friendly or green building materials are, it is very important to back it up with data. For example, in architectural schools, at least that has been my limited experience, there is a lot of emphasis on thinking outside the box and just working and strengthening your intuition and developing designs that feel right to you or that speak to the site. Unfortunately, because in architectural courses, students or even faculty don't get time to work on live projects. So they don't really get exposed to the calculations and the structural stability or the other thinking that goes in it. And as a result, we don't use numbers. Some of the tools like life cycle assessment or even carbon emission platforms get exposed only when a candidate has completed architecture. So one submission here is that if we can look at numbers, look at what environmental product declarations are, what is the embodied energy, and also look at building that sensitivity within the class. So for example, I'm aware even players like Saint-Gobain, that the research center is housed within IIT Madras, is doing a lot of research and declaring their environmental product impacts and footprints very regularly. And when a comparison is given, so for a given life cycle of a building, whether that is 25 years, 50 years, 75 years, depends on what building we are talking about, it's usually a good idea to do these kind of calculations and then arrive at decisions. So for example, when we are looking at life cycle assessment, basically what it means is that we look at a building product right from cradle to cradle. Sometimes it can be from cradle to grave as well. But say we choose to use AAC blocks and we may use industrial energy and it is lighter in weight. Therefore, we will require less steel and less cement in the structure. And essentially, it will have a lower footprint as we compare to conventional bricks. But in practice, if we look at a life cycle assessment, and suppose we make a comparison between vitrified tiles and say using marble as a flooring, if we can compare these two scenarios, then including the transport distance and so on, it will help us, it will make it easier for us to make these choices. Most choices right now, even on material, are based on the initial capital costs of the building. And irrespective of whether employment is being generated or health of the occupants gets impacted, cost is the only parameter. That, I think, is being shifted now with we have product catalog, with the edge embodied energy calculations and so on. And this is something which we can take when going forward. I just want to ask you if life cycle assessment is something that you look at while making your product decisions. Somebody has asked me, what is the significance of life cycle assessment in sustainable building design? So for example, if I have to choose between using a single glass and a double glass in a commercial or institutional building which is fully air conditioned. Now, if I am to do a life cycle assessment, I will take into consideration where that glass is coming from, what purpose is it serving, what is the impact of using that glass on the air conditioning load of the building, and so on. So glass plays a significant role in the use and the operation of the building. And depending on what kind of glass I'm using, there will be a difference in embodied energy, difference in cost, and so on. So when I do a life cycle assessment, it helps me choose not only that one glass is cheap and the other is more expensive, but it allows me to make a decision based on how much glass is being used. For example, in Gurgaon, say the whole building facade is made of glass. Is that really required? If I could have used brick, not only would that provide more comfort, but that will also reduce the cost of double glazing. These are some of the nuances which can be highlighted when doing an LCA. For example, in a recent project I'm doing in Ajmer, we are trying to decide whether we should use stone or we should use fly ash bricks. One is, of course, aesthetics, the other is cost. But we are also looking at the maintenance costs, the cooling costs, the payback periods, which are different because each material has a different property and impact during the operation of the building. And we are looking at a 50-year cycle, which means that over a period of 50 years, if I use glass 1 or finish 1, this is going to be the heat which is going to come inside the building. Vis-a-vis, this is the air conditioning load, this is the day-to-day operation load, and of course, cost of the envelope itself. So traditionally, we move from capex-based decisions to a life cycle-based decisions. And ultimately, when the building is dismantled, is there any scope? So in a fly ash building, I may not be able to reuse the material once the building is breaks down. But in case of stone, I may be able to reuse it. So depending on what quality, we can make decisions accordingly. Does LCA compare traditional clay bricks with hollow or recycled bricks? So LCA is a methodology that can be used to compare two options or multiple options, and it can be used for any product. What we measure in LCA is, for example, what is the global warming potential, or what are the emissions abated. We are not measuring energy saved or energy spent or money saved. We are assessing the impact on the environment. So it's quite a complex framework. The principle I have just communicated. So there are lots of organizations, there are tools. So if you do a quick search on one-click LCA, that is a freely available downloadable tool where some basic parameters have to be given, and any two materials can be used and can be compared. It can be flooring, it can be wall finishing, it can be composition of the wall, it can be the whole building in itself, it can be window assembly, कुछ भी कर सकते हैं. Scope 1, 2, and 3 have to be considered deeply. That is right. Kamya. Kamya, where are you from?
Ma'am, I'm from New Delhi and I'm the manager sustainability and green head North projects in green steel rebars, ARS green steels.
I see. Okay. So even in the kind of steel we are using, thank you, Kamya, we can use one steel versus another steel, because suppose even a foundation is being designed. So in the foundation design, we will look at steel, concrete, aggregates, how deep we are going, what is the structural strength, and so on. And the materials, how to choose between one material or the other, that LCA can help us identify. It's an approach that can be used. Should LCA be mandatory for large public infrastructure projects? Who is Mr. Rafi? Where are you from?
I'm from Kashmir, ma'am.
No, which organization I meant? Sorry.
Jammu and Kashmir. We do research. We have a private NGO. We do research here. It is Kashmir Research Institute of Learning and Solar Technology.
Okay, understood. Thank you for that. So the general financial guidelines based on which government approves all projects, including construction projects, actually mandates LCA, especially while procurement of steel and cement, LCA is mandatory. However, if you look at the general practices which are at play, a lot of our practices are designed to avoid corruption. So LCA hota nahi hai, LCA hona chahiye. I completely agree with you. But mandatory bhi hai. But abhi approvals mil jate hain without doing LCA. So हो नहीं रहे. But at least there are private sector initiatives, there are certification agencies which expect you to do that, so that is happening. Okay. So like I said, when you use LCA, you can also replace one or the other material. You can use regular steel with green steel. You can use regular brick with fly ash brick, and it will give you a number which is on avoiding impact on environment. It's not a cost number. It's not an energy saved number. It is a GWP, global warming potential. So this is the global warming that we have avoided by use of one material versus the other. Another effective method is material substitution. So for example, in OPC cement or virgin aggregates, we can substitute it with fly ash, blended cement or recycled aggregate. That can be easily done. And even in class, when a lot of faculty are taking it up, when students come up with various, mostly in a building construction class, it would be a useful exercise to help them change a type of material to the other. For example, even when false ceilings are done, or for that matter, ducting, there are many alternate materials that can be used even to provide services. So these are things which may or may not align with Griha or LEED, because even Griha and LEED may not have it for the entire host of services. But such examples can help us take theory to practice, both in class and in the municipalities. In the municipalities, we are typically bound by CPWD rules and regulations, which increasingly allow for this flexibility now. So as far as LEED is concerned, and like I mentioned, LEED, Griha, EDGE, and IGBC have frameworks that can be used to do this assessment. In LEED, for example, it asks for life cycle thinking and transparency, and credits can be earned for environmental product declarations, whether the product is sourced responsibly or whether there are regional materials versus people are very fond of importing marble from Italy and so on. And for example, there is also manuals which the products have to show, right? Not only for building materials, but even for cleaning agents, for chemicals which are used in the toilets. Even those can be classified as green materials or not. So materials, the lens remains the same, whether it is used for construction or during the operation of the building. Similarly, Griha awards credits for low energy recycled or rapidly renewing materials. EDGE focuses on quantifying the material efficiency with percentage reductions. Just the way LEED, Griha, and EDGE are structured is foundationally different. So EDGE will tell you how much better you are. Even though LEED and Griha say, do X, Y, Z and tell me what is the impact, EDGE will ask you what you are doing and tell you what the impact is. IGBC, of course, has the most comprehensive database because it is backed by the Confederation of Indian Industry, and CII is into manufacturing of innumerable products. And they have a whole catalog called Green Pro, which is an abbreviation for green products. And उसमें से बस pick up करके हम use कर सकते हैं. Of course, many times the relevance changes, the greenness changes depending on where the product is. But to start with, we can use these certifications as a guiding tool to take it forward. Have any of you had experience in using the product catalog of Griha, LEED, EDGE, or IGBC? I cannot see the chat window. Just one second. Yes, Kamya, you have used the green building rating systems?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, fortunately, we are the one and only on Griha in TMT rebars, which are
Excellent.
green. So yes, we multiple times we get to see Griha ratings, yeah, and Green Pro ratings as well, LEED ratings as well. But unfortunately, the ratings are not very good in terms of building materials. So yeah, maybe new framework would be there who will consider only the embodied emissions. We are waiting for that. like V5 version of LEED.
Okay, I think, ma'am, because the data is not freely accessible, data hai hi nahi. So, which is why the product catalogs are still using the kind of information and catalogs there are. As soon as the research fraternity works on their embodied energy numbers, we will have more information on that. Somebody has said, in order to reduce the construction cost, we can adopt other techniques such as precast construction, rat trap bond, etc. You are absolutely right in saying that, Manzoor Hemaji. There's just one thing I'd like to bring to your notice, that cost is one pillar as far as sustainable construction or green materials is concerned. So it is an important consideration. And of course, the materials following cost optimization techniques are also green materials. But precast construction, just getting the stuff to site and putting it together, will make requirement of labor negligible. It is a good thing. It is also a bad thing because unemployment will rise. So if you're from a municipality, a lot of our objective is to get the project done in time while engaging local skill or while enhancing local skill. So that is a decision one needs to make. Rat trap bond, for example, is a good example of being labor intensive, of local skills being showcased, of reducing the impact on environment, because we create those voids in the wall. The material which is required for construction is significantly reduced. So it has a good impact on environment. It increases employment, and it is also cost effective. So something that balances all the three, that would be green. But any one would be green as well. Any other questions? To have EPD on your product, LBC, yes, I agree with you, Kamya. But there are very few organizations. So also because local materials are not operating like multinational companies. Somebody in a remote village in some area of Assam will be making or curing bamboo. By the time they do an EPD, or also the location of the project is not decided. So some data is always linked to where the site is. Local is for bamboo, where it is growing, not in another different part of the country. So the context in which this data is read is also very different. Okay, coming back to the slides. So just to summarize and take this conversation forward, while the rating systems and frameworks are there, this matrix has usually worked for me in terms of embodied carbon, recyclability. Embodied carbon can be calculated through the environmental product declarations, for which one would typically need to do life cycle costing, life cycle assessment. Sometimes people also put the cost, the emissions saved, which is again very regional and context specific. So that is one metric which can be used. How much of the material can be recycled, both during construction and during operation of the project? Health impact, cost implications, and certification credits. So these are the broad components that can be used to decide whether a building material is green or not. And of course, there are multidimensional benefits that come in terms of environment, economic, and social, which we just spoke of. I'd be very keen and curious to know, when you think of an eco-friendly material, which pillar do you relate to most? Environmental, social, or economic? Anybody? Environmental. Sometimes the financial cost of making an environmental building are really high. Okay, environment, economic, and social. It has to be a balance between the three. Somebody asked me, how does from standards to studios support climate responsive architecture? So for example, there are national building codes, there are ISHRE codes and standards, there are There is the Energy Conservation Building Code. So all these standards are in place, but implementation side is really poor. There are multiple reasons for that. Sometimes the people are not aware. Sometimes the materials and strategies are not available. Sometimes the strategies for that particular locality are not available. Sometimes, for example, in Leh, people, we are not documenting enough what is happening, what is not happening. But when we introduce the various software, or we even introduce class, it gives the decision-making sensibilities to students who are on the drawing board. So that is how we can take it from standards to students. Yes, that is true. Also time factor, absolutely right. Yes, good to hear your thoughts. But when we talk of environment, there are multiple other considerations as well. You have a question? One second. So, like I said, there are environmental benefits from carbon to climate resilience. Everybody who said climate benefit and the environmental benefit is most important, there is logic to that, and that is required completely. Given the kind of challenges, I'm sure you've all seen, we have a new map identifying the earthquake categories of countries, of India. So even the kind of construction materials we use in Delhi, I think we need to now start rethinking, because the seismic zone of Delhi has changed. Similarly, unless we know that the material is durable or cost-wise effective, there is no point in, it will not work if a project is not financially feasible. And of course, health, skills, local livelihoods, all of that will contribute to the social benefits of using a building material. So it's all interlinked. This is my personal opinion, which has come from working over the years on this subject. But ideally, one should look at what the holistic picture is. One always has to strike a balance, and whether you are in a decision-making position at the municipality or as a faculty in academic institutes, I think all the pillars need due consideration before decisions are made, not just the cost component. I'm happy to take any questions and hand it over to Dr. Bhatiani. Okay. Yeah. Any questions? Anybody has any questions? No questions. Thank you. Over to Dr. Bhatiani.
Thank you, Priyanka, and good afternoon. Namaskar to everyone. Priyanka, thank you for an excellent presentation, and we are grateful to BMTPC for giving us this opportunity to interact and have this conversation today. So Priyanka has already covered, in detail about various kinds of materials. And what I want to do a little bit is, go to the systems lens. How do we, take what Priyanka said within, the built environment, or how do we make our buildings more sustainable? But what needs to change at the systems level? And I'll talk a little bit about that. But before that, let me give a flavor of few trends which we are seeing, in our country, but also globally. And these are, macro trends which I want to talk about, because that provides a context for what I'm going to say later in terms of what needs to change. But it also gives you a fertile ground, as engineers or managers or architects, you all have a very important role in making the change happen. So starting with the trends, I think you all know climate change, is a big, driver of how economies are shaping up, and more importantly, how we need to transform our economies as we move forward. Within climate change, if I apply a lens of cities and buildings, we need to think of both how cities and buildings consume a lot of energy as well as materials. And particularly there, the buildings are the key, and that's why we are talking about the built environment. But also climate change is impacting our cities, in terms of heat waves, in terms of flooding, in terms of, various kinds of risks which we are seeing, for which the buildings and cities need to prepare. So they have a dual role in terms of, mitigation or, preventing climate change or slowing down climate change, but B, at the same time, preparing for the consequences which are likely to happen because of the climate change that has already happened over last, particularly last 5 to 10 decades. And given where we are, it's almost the tipping point. That means that if we don't change now, it is quite likely we may be at a point of reversal. And that would mean that the costs, both private and social, will start to accumulate and accelerate so much that it will be a huge challenge for everyone. So I think, first of all, I'm very glad that these conversations are, moving up in terms of priority. We have seen various actions which have happened in the past by, various institutions, both government and private. But I think going forward, a different narrative has to emerge, and I'll come back to that in a bit. So climate change is one trend I wanted to talk about. Second, is urbanization, particularly, in our country. We are seeing an accelerated trend towards urbanization. More and more people are coming to cities. And I was looking at some statistics recently, and I found out that, cities, the large cities in India occupy maybe just 1% of our land. But they have a huge footprint, both in terms of outputs that they produce. That means, in economic terms, be it the income, be it the employment, be it the, GDP. So they have a huge output, but that also means very large, input in terms of energy, which our cities consume. And as we move forward, this trend is likely to continue over next 2-3 decades, particularly. And that means we will have more and more buildings, more and more need for resources to, develop these buildings, more and more energy to be consumed by these buildings. So that's the second trend. The third trend is, if you look at our population today, we are a very, very young country. Our average age is maybe 28 or 29 years. So we have a long way to go in terms of, how people and households will come up in the income trajectory, because our per capita income is still fairly low. And therefore, the per capita consumption of built environment, per capita consumption of electricity, per capita consumption of various materials will go up dramatically over the next 2-3 decades. This is also partly linked to, aspirations. So we have a young population who's also very aspirational. They have, seen or they have at least access to global information thanks to, internet and universal, availability of information. And therefore, for us to say that we can continue to live, as Gandhiji wanted us to, that is not going to happen. We will have to, develop, but we will have to develop in a lot more sustainable manner. So that's the third trend. Aspirations, expectations are increasing. A fourth trend is, technology. That is to say that, we have over the last, I think, 2-3 decades, seen a huge and dramatic shift in how the technologies, have evolved, be it internet, be it mobile phones, be it personal computing, and now looking forward, AI. Also, how the medicine and health-related technologies have shaped up. So technology is increasingly, a catalyst and an enabler of innovative solutions. And, we have been talking recently, for example, how buildings can become a lot more, grid interactive. That means, they can start to optimize their energy consumption through various innovative technologies which are available. For example, IoT-based sensors which can optimize your demand, or they can enable a lot more solar energy to be, generated on your rooftop. It can also enable, on the city side, electric, vehicles, which have again a new and innovative technology. In the last 5 years, we have seen a dramatic pickup on the same. So that's the fourth trend. The fifth trend, I think, which we need to think about is, how climate change is impacting us as human beings, the health dimension of climate change. And we are seeing, that, there is an increasing challenge on that front, that, a lot more people are being impacted either directly or indirectly. We are seeing degradation of, external environment in our cities. We're also seeing degradation of internal environment within the spaces we work and live. So, when I look at these macro trends, I think these are trends which will stay with us for next few decades, but they will also shape not only our economies, which they certainly will, but they will also shape us as human beings, how we interact, with cities, how we interact with nature, and how, we use the technologies to make this future a lot more sustainable. So, having talked a little bit about the trends, I think there are 2-3 dimensions of change which I had mentioned, which needs to happen as we move forward, so that we take the best out of these trends and we amplify and we accelerate positive change. And you all as engineers, architects, managers, I think have an important and a very catalytic role in making this change happen. And I'll talk about, one specific, example here, just because of paucity of time, not talking about everything, but in context of built environment, I believe there is a very strong potential and opportunity for us to use recycled materials, by which I mean, concrete, aggregates, sand, wood, which is coming out of buildings that we are redeveloping. So in large cities, like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, there are lots of buildings, which are being redeveloped because they have outlived, their utility, they are unsafe, or otherwise, they occupy too much land because they are, very low-rise structures, and we need to accommodate a lot more people in these spaces as we move forward. So in this broad category of, construction or recycled materials, I think aggregates, sand are the two important ones, which we have seen, are increasingly available, but not utilized adequately. And there I feel, that demand creation is one of the key drivers which will need to be unlocked for more and more construction recycled materials to be innovatively used. I think the government has already done its bit. We have something known as C&D rules, construction and demolition material rules under the issued by the CPCB. But we have seen that in most cities, these rules are yet to be implemented. And often, I hear that, it's a chicken and egg problem, that, we don't have supply. That's the typical argument, which I hear from the urban local bodies, that how do we create these facilities because there's no one who's buying these materials. And, from the building developer side, I hear that, oh, but there is no supply, how do we use them? So I think that's a typical chicken and egg problem. But I feel that, when I look at the landscape, there are already some cities like Delhi, which have created a model, and you have 4 operating C&D facilities, and the materials are adequately available. I think there is enough evidence to say that, there is fair amount of, recycled or, demolition of buildings which is happening to enable construction of or development of recycling facilities in all large cities of India. When I say large, it means at least cities which have 10 lakh population, and there are at least 50, 60 such cities in India. And I feel can be a big driver by requiring that the buildings in which you are involved demand for these materials, because there is already a regulatory framework, as I said, under the C&D rules, to facilitate this change. So the framework is already there. Now it's a matter of, for us to make this change. And, I often feel that, when we look out in our cities like Delhi, we see the air is so polluted and everyone is complaining. There is so much outrage. But at the same time, there is so much opportunity. So how do we convert this outrage into an opportunity and make it happen is, I think, the critical aspect. And I have seen that, when we look at the technology for recycled materials, when we look at the economics of recycled materials, it is extremely viable and financially attractive to use these materials in your buildings. And as we move forward, if you all start asking for these materials and insist on quality of the materials, I have heard arguments that the quality of supply of these materials is inadequate or sometimes, inconsistent. But I have seen these facilities operate for last 10 years in Delhi. I have also seen these facilities operate in multiple countries outside India, like UK, Norway, and so on and so forth. It is, I believe, very much possible for us to replicate these facilities in India. And of course, Delhi is already showing the way. And you can start demanding for quality certification of materials which are coming out, like similar to certification of material coming from a factory. These can certainly be done. And there are laboratories in India which will certify the materials by testing the physical, chemical properties and make sure that, what is coming to you is good to go. So I think I will like to stop here to enable, some Q&A. I think we have 15 minutes left in the session. So any questions that you may have for me or Priyanka, we are happy to answer those. I welcome those questions now, please. How do you store it? So there is a question on how can governments balance economic growth with climate action. I can try to address that question. I think it's a very important point. What can governments do? And we feel that governments have an important role. So there are three things which we feel government should do. But at the same time, there is more important role for us, and I'll come back to that. But for governments, number one, is to help in creating markets for clean and environmental products and services. So creating markets, because often the technology is available, product is available, but you find that the market demand is inadequate. So number one, creating more demand. Yes, creating more demand or market which will enable that suppliers and buyers can come together. That's point number one. The second point is also making the regulation which often exists, but ensuring that regulation is adequately implemented. So there are many rules and regulations which are available already, as I was talking of C&D rules, for example. So if you can ensure that regulation is implemented, there is penalty, who are defaulting, etc., I think is the second important change. And the third important change, which talks more to the customers, which talks more to the society and to us as citizens, is to create awareness. And I think that's where BMTPC, I congratulate, the conversation we are happening today is a part of this. What can government do is to make people aware, is to create societal awareness, because unless you and I, all of us, change, government can keep talking till, as they say, cows come home, but the change will not happen. Priyanka, you want to add something?
Yes,
or want to take up some other question?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Bhatiani. And as Pankaj has advised, I've also shared both our email IDs for any queries you may have or any discussions you may want to have after the session is over. There is a question by Kamya. Should governments be the first buyer for the green building materials available in the market? Because if the government is going to have the pilot projects, it will be followed like a law. I completely agree with you, Kamya, and that is the sentiment of the building, government as well. So, which is why I said the CPWD schedules and specifications now allow for that flexibility. But having said that, we need to move away from the pilot mentality or the demonstration building mentality, which has been going on for several decades now. So now BMTPC also has showcase projects, PMAY, residential complexes, where a lot of BMTPC promoted technologies, which are also green building materials, which are implemented. But in my professional experience, I think a strong demand, which is based on a strong market force. Ultimately, whether you like it or not, it is a matter of cost and supply. So one, people who are working on indigenous materials, green building materials, need to strengthen their business models and take that information and technology to people. So the government is already doing what it is doing currently, but supply chains need to be strengthened, and I think the private sector needs to participate. The demand needs to be generated. what about single dwelling unit? Is it not cost effective for ordinary people? So that's another very good question. IFC is currently developing a database of materials, which is जैसे BE की 5-star scheme थी ना, everywhere you will go and you will get only 5-star labeled or labeled appliances, और कुछ मिलेगा ही नहीं. So right now, something like that, like an online yellow pages is being developed at a municipal level. They are taking this up for a couple of states to begin with, and specifically targeting the single dwelling units or self-made homes. There are a lot of financial agencies like IIFL and others who are focusing and emphasizing on that. So through the finance, through the lines of credit, hopefully the green building materials will become mainstream now. The challenge which I think has taken over the market is that a lot of technologies, even double glazed units or materials that are not environment friendly, they have started selling themselves as green materials under various types of arguments. So because that has taken up the market, the awareness for people who are making alternate technologies is not as much as it should be. It's a marketing thing, I feel now. Can government-led pilot projects make green materials affordable for individual households? How? Do you mean incentives? Because right now there are no incentives. The material is not expensive, but it asks you to compose your construction. Like AAC, lots of problems like cracks found. Green building materials need more R&D. I completely agree with you. More R&D is needed. TPD must be the mandate then in all the projects. Yes, but early days. तो अभी जब मार्केट ही रेडी नहीं है, इसको मैंडेट करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा. ग्लास वगैरह का EPD मिलता है, आप स्टील का शायद देते होंगे,
Cement also is
हर
happening.
प्रोडक्ट का नहीं मिल रहा है अभी. तो अभी मैंडेट करना, it's too early for the market.
I think one of the other things, there is someone asked about incentives, etc. One of the things which can be done, and from our side we have advocated, is to reduce GST on sustainable materials. So like the GST on electric vehicles is pegged at a lower rate. Similarly, GST on green materials can be pegged at a lower rate.
Yes, I agree with you, Mohammed Hassan Ghias. Buildings contribute to about 40% of emissions. So while we are a part of the problem, I think the solution is also here. Is BMTPC offering any kind of internship or training program for students under green building practices? If not, will it be programmed in future, a platform where students can share their ideas and work on their research together?
As of now, we are not having a systematic internship or training program for the students. If in any case, if some students who are in final year or in their midterm courses of architecture or civil engineering, if they want to have some training or summer training kind of thing, a small duration training, they can come to us and we can consider that. But right now there is no systematic. Maybe in future we can think of doing such programs.
I think this is an excellent idea for BMTPC to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the Habitat Emprise, there are some internship opportunities. Feel free to reach out to Priyanka for that.
I've shared the email ID.
Sir, good afternoon. Am I audible, sir?
Yes,
Yes.
good afternoon.
Yeah. I'm from Karnataka, the Karnataka State Building Centers. I'm the director, Dr. Narayan Guda. See, my suggestion, in Karnataka, all the Nirmiti Kendras building centers which are established in each district across the state, we are promoting all these green concepts and innovative building technologies and the materials. And also at the same time, all building centers are approached by the various engineering colleges across the state to provide internship programs. Do you have any standard curriculum for this innovative building material and these technologies about that? If you share, we can have the one more session for them. We can include that topics for the students.
Yeah, Director Sahab, yeah, good afternoon. This is Pankaj Gupta from BMTPC. Thank you for attending this session, and we are happy that you have taken interest with STEM. And as you are saying that the engineering colleges are approaching you for this kind of sessions or training for the students, what we can do is maybe I will interact with you separately on this, and we can
Fine.
work definitely something on this. Definitely,
Sure.
lot of study kind of material or modules developed for engineers and architects and professionals, but how they can be like useful for the students and how that material can be converted into the modules which the way you want it. And we can, I will be, as a BMTPC, we will be in touch with you for this.
Sure.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, please? I think today's session was very informative and knowledge filled and very interactive also. I am grateful to our speakers, Dr. Kochhar and Dr. Bhatiani, that the session was very interactive, and the way they have conducted the session instead of just speaking on a subject. And also I was saying that we will be taking up the questions in the end, that we have done. But during the session, I think it was very interactive, and people have taken, the participants have also taken a great interest. That is very good, and we are happy that the subject was very relevant, and the participants have taken such a great interest into the subject. And as you know, we this kind of seminars on the very relevant subjects we will be keep on doing in future also. This is a webinar series which we normally conduct every month. Normally we try to do it on third Wednesday of the month, and next month also we will be planning, and we will keep you updated. And thank you very much once again to all the participants who have attended the program today. Today we have the response has been very, very good as compared to our earlier programs. We are happy to see that, and again grateful to our speakers also. And thank you all for joining, and we will be keeping you updated. Today we had almost 200 participants who attended the program, and this is from all over the country, since we have been hosting or inviting the people from all over the country. And I personally thank all of you for joining this program, and we will keep you updated. And on behalf of BMTPC, once again, I thank all of you and our speaker also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. I think it was an excellent session. We appreciate everyone who joined and contributed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.